More often than not, images of the older woman include a decrepit, bitter witch who has resigned to pondering her life's regrets and failures, especially those involving a man, either the one she lost or the one who ruined her. But what about the women who still desire the vitality and intimacy they're expected to abandon at the ripe age of 35? What are they supposed to do with all of that love? Well, they are doomed to live in the past, perpetually facing backward, yearning for what has slipped past them, forced to think the best time of their life is over, and blaming themselves for all they did not do. But sometimes we get to see the older woman defeat these notions of age, femininity, and reestablish her intrinsic sexuality and motivations. Do these still involve a man? Yes, but sometimes that's okay, especially if that man is Nicolas Cage. Greetings and salutations, friends. I'm martinezarianaedu, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I guess you could consider this a sequel to my Palm Springs and Seeking a Friend video, where I took two movies I think would make a good double feature and talk about their female protagonists and love in the film. I watched Moonstruck for the first time with my friend Cory, who will be making a few cameos in today's video since it's only fitting to hear her thoughts. And after I finished it, I realized it gave me the same warm, fuzzy feeling that Peggy Sue Got Married did, so I forced Cory to watch that, and a video idea was born. My film teacher once told me that Cher went to the theaters to see the trailer for Silkwood and heard everyone laugh at her name. Now, I love Silkwood, and I love Cher in Silkwood, but alas, this video is not about Silkwood. This video also isn't about mermaids, but here I am talking about how good Cher is in that. Cher is an incredible actress, and I didn't grow up knowing her as an actress. I knew her as that girl who sang Believe on my mom's 2000s pop CD. But truly, she is a presence, and maybe that doesn't accommodate every film, but it certainly accommodates Moonstruck, which is why she won that Oscar. I literally knew nothing about the film going in, but I quickly fell in love with it. I love how grounded the film is at its beginning. We meet Loretta, and she doesn't immediately look remarkable. Obviously, she's Cher, she's beautiful, but she's dressed down. She's wearing gray, both her clothes and her hair, she dons a bun, and she's doing bookkeeping. None of these are images of female sexuality in our society. But then, in the second sequence, she is handed a rose, and instantly the film displays her beauty as it steadily captures her holding, smelling, and smiling at the rose. She was a beauty all along. She just needed to be extended some sympathy and compassion. What are you talking? I love flowers. She is misunderstood and has been pushed to a certain place. We come to learn that her first husband died, and Loretta believes this was because of bad luck, a phrase that will be repeated throughout the film and influence our characters' lives to an immense degree. Through mentions of bad and good luck, through curses and moon spells, we see spirituality and mysticism wielded as a mechanism to refuse responsibility in our life choices. Her boyfriend, Johnny, proposes, but she asks him to please get down on one knee and present a ring, though he only has his pinky ring, insisting they have a traditional wedding. She reveals her and her late husband got married at City Hall, and she believes the lack of traditional displays of affection and love are what gave them their bad luck. When she cheats on Johnny with his brother, Ronnie, she blames her decision on her bad luck. When Loretta calls Ronnie stupid for not seeing any women since his fiancée left him, he calls out her hypocrisy, saying that she has not dated anyone between her late husband and Johnny. Loretta rebuffs this and claims again it was her being unlucky. Moonstruck shows us that luck can be a means of deflection. Loretta does not let herself feel the weight of her loss and does not pursue a love greater than Johnny out of fear, but she covers this up with the concept of luck. Age plays a huge role as well. She is 37 and feels that her clock is ticking and she wants to become a wife. If there is a greater spiritual obstacle against her love life, then the lack of effort or desire cannot be blamed on her. But when the opportunity presents itself for Ronnie to propose, he is standing, and Loretta happily says yes. She does, however, ask where the ring is, but I think this is more played for laughs because Ronnie just asked for Johnny's pinky ring back. It was never about luck. She truly did love her first husband, and their spontaneity was not karmically punished, and neither are Ronnie and Loretta for their infidelity. As the movie shows us, love is most often messy, and traditionalism in romance is outdated and unrealistic. Sometimes people cheat. Sometimes they leave you. Sometimes they die. That's the risk we all take. But at least those who believe in the negative superstitions have the consistency to also believe in the moonlit miracles and enjoy the blessings from above. A lot of people who discuss the film talk about its equal depiction of death and love. Now, Loretta is spiritually dead. Ronnie is too, and they admit this to each other in the throes of passion. It's the reason they cheat as fiercely as they do. This is a scene from the script that's a bit reworked in the film. They kiss. When they part, there was a drop of blood on Loretta's lips.
Your blood.
All my life, I have never reached a man. I knew that I would reach my husband, but I took my time and he was dead. Ronnie.
Loretta.
I want to cut you open and crawl inside of you. I want you to swallow me.
I've got you.
Get all of me. Take everything. Now I'll pass it on to Cory for her piece.
Wow, thank you, Ariana, for such a beautiful introduction. I feel so warm and so welcome. My mother grew up as a third-generation Italian-American in the 1970s in the great state of New Jersey. She had a ridiculously huge family that either lived on the same block as her or in the same house, so they were constantly together, constantly having a good time, constantly irritating each other, very close. She was surrounded by the music, food, and rich culture of the old country, and she introduced me to Moonstruck a few years ago, as she would often reminisce and tell me stories about life in New Jersey with her loving family. She adores this film and holds it so close to her because I feel that she sees herself in Cher. The first time watching this with her was so magical. This movie has such a nostalgic and homey feel from the moment it starts. I felt calm and warm watching Loretta and Ronnie fall in love under Cosmo's full moon. Loretta needs someone to care for. She is very attentive and longs for a love that makes her feel alive. And her romance with Johnny isn't at all a romance. She admits she doesn't love him and is settling. Cher is settling. She's settling for a mommy's boy, a chihuahua that she adopted from the pound, took him home, and he happily eats all the little kibble she gives him and let her pet his head, but that's boring. That's not what she wants. She's still a woman with desire. She still wants to feel something, and the wolf that is Nick Cage, he can do that for her. Yeah. He's a loudmouth. He doesn't stop barking when she tells him to. He puts up a fight when she gives him his kibble, but most importantly, he wants to play. He's begging her to throw his favorite ball, and she hesitates, but only slightly, because after all, she wanted a dog to keep her active, to give affection to have a relationship with.
A dog to fuck. She wanted a dog to have sex with.
I love the line this movie walks, having the moon be an actual force that affects almost every character in her family. Her romance with Nick Cage happens under the moon's power and reveals the wolf that he is and the desire Loretta has to trust the wolf and finally allow herself to feel something. Their relationship has wild and passionate love, the opposite of her safe mutual agreement of marriage that she has with Johnny. All in all, I owe everything to my mother, because without this movie we lose out on arguably the best Nick Cage performance, although Vampire's Kiss does rival this, but only very closely.
Loretta is utterly consumed by this affair. As Cory details, she likes Johnny because it's practical and easy and allows her to be the version of herself without challenge. In the script, she's defined as tough and efficient, loyal and watchful. She watches out for Mr. Johnny and defends him against life. Loretta is constantly taking care of others, their finances, their relationships. But through Ronnie, she's able to reclaim her independent, sensual self. She claims he is the wolf, but Ronnie admits that does not make her a lamb. She is a wolf that's been subdued by her pain and loneliness. Loretta understands that she's settling for Johnny, and her mom even endorses this, stating that truly loving the man is what creates the trouble. But Ronnie doesn't necessarily disagree with this either. His monologue shows us that love can be troublesome, but if the alternative is a lackluster sensation of security, perhaps it's worth the trouble? When Loretta's about to go on her first date with Ronnie, we get a really beautiful, slow scene of her getting ready. She sits with herself in the warm, passionate glow, literally and figuratively rekindling this fire within her that she's lost. Sipping her red wine, she applies the same red color to her previously light pink painted lips, reaffirming her sexuality and desire in a mature way. Gone is the girl of the past, here is the woman of her present, and she is just as sexy. I do think retaining the gray hair and just doing the curly big hair would have been better, but I digress. We never see Loretta's desire for Johnny in the same way as we do in these scenes. Sure, she kisses him softly, but it's almost maternal what she's fostered with Johnny. Loretta deserves to be loved, not parentified, desired, not tamed. Even when she assumes the responsibility of telling Ronnie his life, she is not rewarded for this, as Ronnie reads her right back. It is not her duty to assume the role of protector or nurturer in the relationship, but instead to exist as an equal. I remember being upset at first that the film didn't end with the wedding. On and on we hear about this big and grand wedding and how it has to be perfect, and we don't even see it. But then I read B.D. McClay's article in The New Yorker. Quote, one reason that Moonstruck celebrates the family over the romantic couple, it ends not with a wedding but with a toast to family, is because family relationships are fixed this way. End quote. While yes, the film is a romantic comedy, its central theme of family is evident in that we see how these romantic relationships affect family dynamics. The film's decision to not show the wedding reaffirms its theme that luck is not the deciding factor in the success of a relationship. Having a traditional wedding won't be what grants the two lovers happiness. For a relationship to thrive, it requires effort, patience, and forgiveness, as shown through Rose and Cosmo's complex marriage. A relationship can end because of one partner's literal death, but Moonstruck shows us that spiritual death is just as damaging. True love and joy come from the persistence of always chasing after your desires, no matter the fear lurking. It's perfectly displayed when Loretta and Ronnie have just finished seeing La Boheme, and Loretta says she was coughing her brains out and still she had to keep singing. As time passes and we inch closer to the clock on the dark wall, we feel more inclined to surrender to fate's final chime. However, we look to the other couple in the film for guidance, Raymond and Rita. When Raymond sees the bright moon of his past shine once again, Rita watches him gaze out the window and says,
You know something? In that light, with that expression on your face, you look about 25 years old.
Youth is a sensation, not a numerical expiration date. We are not bound to our aging bodies. We exist as souls that continue to feel the depth of life even as it passes. A similar scene occurs between the liquor store owner and his wife as Loretta is buying wine. When the wife claims she sees a wolf in her husband, he retorts, you know what I see in you? The girl I married. We see the past as a tool for healing and communion and romance. The past is not something to forget, but something to reconcile with, and it can be used to reinvigorate love no matter how much time has passed. Moonstruck teaches us that we cannot base our lives on literal temporality. We must stay faithful to our souls and those we let touch them. As Cosmo says about Loretta's ring from Johnny, everything is temporary. That don't excuse nothing. If everything is temporary, then everything matters, and nothing should be dismissed or diminished, including the sensation of love. When Ronnie is begging for Loretta to be with him, asking why she didn't wait for the right man, she says the right man didn't come. Again, we see the ramifications of being bound to literal time and the socially defined expectations imposed on our desires and happiness. But Ronnie states, the past and the future is a joke to me now. I see they ain't here. Right here is a woman and a man in love, and that is enough. Loretta wanting Johnny is enough. I also don't know the legitimacy of this, but I read that Italians referred to the fetus as being aronca nel mundo della luna, still in the world of the moon or not yet born. So when the moon reemerges in all her glory, cascading upon this family, it further contributes to the idea that they are not bound to this life, but that their essence is intertwined with something magical. Peggy Sue was released a year before Moonstruck, and not to sound like a broken record, but was introduced to me by my high school film teacher, Miss E. Yes, I don't even know if I had seen The Godfather when I saw this movie, so let's just say this was my introduction to Francis Ford Coppola. I remember finishing it and just feeling like I had been given this great big hug. Peggy Sue also begins with a woman coming out of a marriage, this time by choice, not by death. Hurt and stressed, Peggy Sue must attend her high school reunion without her high school sweetheart, Charlie. Enthralled in the nostalgia, she can't help but openly reflect on the direction her life has gone in since high school. Granted, she is happy to be the mother of 2 grown children and own her own bakery, but of course, she says, if I knew then what I know now, I'd do a lot of things differently. Peggy is dealing with the downside of young love once ripened. The 2 married soon after high school and wound up blaming each other for all they never accomplished. After reunion, she is eclipsed by images of her high school success and joy, and when she is gifted a crown at the event, she feels more anxiety than joy. Here is a woman so burnt out from her pain, she struggles to stand and accept this gift and honor. It is on stage with everyone clapping and cheering that she passes out and wakes up in her 1960s high school body. The script reads, Peggy begins to cry softly. The images begin to melt together, pulsing to the music. Peggy is the focus of everyone's nostalgia. A wave of time washes over them. For a lot of the movie, Peggy believes that she's dead, that she's in some state of limbo before she finally clocks out. She figures while she's here, she might have a little fun, since she still retains the maturity and memories of her present-day self, only in her younger body. As her adult self, she still retains sexuality, albeit it's expressed in the past while it's more socially acceptable. But when she sees a photo of Michael Fitzsimmons at the reunion, she expresses how she wishes she'd gone to bed with him in high school. I really respect how the film boldly confronts and explores Peggy's sexuality, as it navigates the liminal space between youth and maturity. It is because of Peggy's growth that she's able to reevaluate her past. She spends a chunk of time distancing herself from Charlie, her boyfriend from whom she can't distinguish from the future husband she will separate from. That is, until he sings to her, and she feels herself remembering her attraction to him. It is here that we get a very poignant couple of scenes surrounding female sexuality in the 60s. While Charlie does help create a sensual mood, Peggy's the one that makes it physical, bringing her hand down below the frame to affect him. Cut to Charlie's car during a steamy makeout sesh. Peggy is the one to pitch having sex, and Charlie is visibly uncomfortable. He is shocked and confused that she would change her mind, stating that last week she wanted to wait till marriage. Now, this is interesting because later in the film, Peggy reveals that her and Charlie only got married because she wound up getting pregnant shortly after her 18th birthday. So this means they do eventually have premarital sex, which leads me to wonder, was Charlie the one to initiate their first time in the original timeline? Seeing as he is so turned off by her obvious and passionate desire. He even accuses her of speaking like a guy when she goes back on her word. So yeah, I'm gonna assume that Charlie was the one to really initiate their first time, which certainly works to elevate the autonomy and power Peggy develops upon her time travel. When Charlie takes Peggy home and calls her a humiliator, Peggy retains her independence and instead of feeling rejected, goes for a little walk and spots Michael Fitzsimmons. She begins to connect with him intellectually, and the two ride off on a motorcycle to a desolate spot on a cliff to smoke weed, because Peggy is not a fucking square. She even begins to dance and proclaims that she wants to be a dancer. This could be bittersweet since she obviously doesn't pursue dancing later on, but I don't think it's too big of a loss. In one scene, we see that Peggy's mom is baking, and when Peggy comes home from school, she immediately sits down and starts helping without even being asked. So we can assume that she enjoys baking and it helps bond her to her mother. What's interesting is right as they're about to have sex, Peggy laughs and says, "You know this really isn't happening." She still doesn't fully accept the idea that she might be reliving or redoing her life, which only further contributes to this notion of desire for desire's sake. She is not doing these things in the hopes of radicalizing her life. She is doing them because they feel good right now and she wants to. Richard, a nerd at the school whom Peggy befriends to help her understand her predicament, describes his personal theory on time. Quote, "One part of itself will fold over and it will just touch the other. You can fill it with anything. Memories, experiences." Meanwhile, her grandma defines this as such.
Being young is just as confusing as being old. Right now, you're just browsing through time. Choose the things you'll be proud of. Things that last.
Peggy's two timelines are barely touching each other, and she is a visitor who must reflect and remember the moments that shaped her and the value that they still hold outside of all her pain. I remember Cory watching the movie and every so often saying,
"Bro,
Where are her kids? Why isn't she thinking about her kids? Her Nick Cage babies.
And she's right. The film wants you to forget about the kids because Peggy forgets about the kids, which is why the ending clicks the way that it does. Charlie confronts Peggy with a marriage proposal, and the two go back and forth as he attempts to convince her that he will change and take care of her. It is storming outside, and Peggy wants to storm off before something interesting happens. Take it away, Cory.
The overwhelming thunder and totally different tone of this scene is what makes me think that this is the end of Peggy's coma and that she can actually hear Charlie talking to her. What makes me think that he's in both places at once is Nick's voice change during the lines after Peggy heads to walk away, stopping her from continuing with,
"Oh, Christ. Peggy. I'm sorry. I thought I was what you wanted me to be. It's all my fault."
The entire time she's in the past, we hear Nick Cage speaking in an over-the-top, comically nasally voice. It's incredible. However, during these lines, he sounds older and speaks as 45-year-old Charlie, the one that we hear at the reunion. In my mind, he's at her bedside in the hospital, feeling the force of the guilt, having pushed his wife to this state of unhappiness and actual medical trauma. He breaks through to Peggy literally and metaphysically, literally being that she can hear him in her unresponsive state as he admits his wrongs, and metaphysically in the dream world as he comes to the realization that he will do anything for her love, right as the tumultuous storm breaks apart the fantasy she created to escape him.
Thunder booms and Charlie covers his ears before his voice returns to its youthful tone. After this scene, Charlie gives Peggy the locket we see her wearing at the beginning of the film, which features a picture of her children. When she holds it in her hand, she literally falls to the ground, overwhelmed by the rushing wave of the memory of her children, though the real photos at this time are of Peggy and Charlie. Peggy ultimately realizes that the things she is most proud of, the things that last, as her grandma said, are her kids.
I'm proud of my children. I miss them so much.
And it is this intense confrontation with her future/present that propels her back into her body. I found a different version of the ending in this script online that I really wish had been the official ending. It takes place in the same place that the actual final scene takes place, like right outside the grandpa's little cult area, that whole thing.
Flying high above them is an enormous glowing liquid neon kite. The center of the kite inscribed in lights, flashing like a marquee. "Happy birthday, Peggy Sue." The kite begins to descend towards them. Peggy jumps to her feet and races towards it. She grabs the tail and starts to sail away with the kite. Charlie chases after her. "Peggy, where are you going? Come back!"
I've gotta go now.
"But I love you. I'll love you forever."
I'll love you too, Charlie. I'll love you for 20 years.
"Come back to me."
I'm trying.
As Charlie watches helplessly, a huge bolt of lightning strikes his car. Peggy smiles. The men from the lodge run outside. They look up above the blazing car and see Peggy floating away. Peggy sees her grandfather in the crowd and blows him a kiss. Charlie begins to run, following the kite cord to its source. He finds Richard, struggling to restrain the runaway kite. "Richard, do something!"
I can't! It's out of control!
Suddenly the cord breaks. Peggy floats away. "Peggy!" Charlie, Richard, and the old men behold Peggy, bobbing and dipping playfully in the sky. We begin to hear Charlie's voice singing Peggy Sue off screen. Peggy looks down with wonder at the earth, and then like a comet, soars into the blackness. In an instant, she becomes a star.
That was really good, guys. It's a whimsical ending that I think would have better fit the motifs of the film, and I really love it. Peggy Sue got married, as sad as it can be, is sympathetic and charming. When Peggy decides to heal her relationship with Charlie, at least as the father of her children, she says that she'll make a strudel, which is even sweeter once you remember that her grandfather said that her grandmother's strudel kept their family together. When I asked Miss E what she thought about this film, she said, "When you get to a certain age and your grandparents have died and your parents look different from aging, you get these pangs for the past and the love that was there that maybe you didn't fully realize or appreciate at that time. And Coppola's incredible lighting and cinematography captures those nostalgic feelings." Moonstruck is classic. The face of a radiantly happy free woman with her arms open to the world as the halo of the swelling moon starkly shines behind her midnight black coat. The poster for Peggy Sue similarly captures the freedom and whimsicality of the film. Also depicting the skyscape, thick clouds hover around Peggy's face, framed by a keyhole. Each woman is silhouetted by her longing, either for the nightly desires or the school daydreams. She is defined by the realm of the other she seeks to access. And each woman's desires are symbolically represented through the elements of the sky, her dreams literally being beyond her and in relation to something greater: destiny, fate, time, love. It's interesting too that most synonyms for the word sky seem to possess a spiritual tone, like the heavens or ether, further showcasing the mystical undertones of these women and the path they must take to unlock their inner selves. Peggy must break the laws of time and space to achieve her peace, and Loretta must attune herself to the night and the celestial magic of love. Both women must learn to not resent or be burdened by their past, but instead love and grow from them. And it is a special type of man who will aid them on their journey.
Bring me the big knife! I'm gonna cut my throat!
Maybe I should come back another time.
No, I want you to see this. I want you to watch me kill myself so you could tell my brother Johnny on his wedding day, okay? Chrissy, bring me the big knife!
I tell you I won't do it!
She won't do it.
The Nick Cage characters in these films are the glue that helped bond the formation of this double feature. However, not solely because of their actor, but because the two characters actually have a lot in common. Musicality is a pretty frequent trend I've noticed in Nicolas Cage films. In Peggy Sue, Charlie wants to be a singer. In Moonstruck, Ronnie loves the opera. More cinematically, both characters are written to have mysterious and grand entrances. We are formally introduced to Charlie and Peggy Sue in a really creative way, where a silver balloon floats up as the camera tilts, revealing Charlie at the top of the staircase. In Moonstruck, we first see his back as he shovels coal into the oven, and we don't see his face until the following sequence. These men are unique, and they hold a special kind of power over these women. Charlie has hurt Peggy, and his appearance will surprise her and send her into a crazy spiral. Ronnie will disrupt Loretta's peace and plan for her future. This is the true nature of man: trouble. However, both of these men will learn that they have to beg and grovel for their leading ladies. Charlie, who originally wants to break up with Peggy after graduation, comes running back to Peggy when she's happy with the decision and even asks why they don't break up sooner. Ronnie will have to deliver an aggressively poetic speech in the street in the snow. Both men are here to teach these women to value the autonomy in the present, regardless of the challenge, and they both speak to the profound complexity of love. Charlie tells Peggy,
That's the great thing about love. Every time we argue, every time something goes wrong, and I know I'm not perfect either, things just work out better in the end.
In Moonstruck, Ronnie wants Loretta to admit that what she has with Johnny isn't love, no matter how neatly they wrap it up. He says,
But love don't make things nice. It ruins everything. It breaks your heart. We aren't here to make things perfect. The snowflakes are perfect. The stars are perfect. Not us.
Not to mention, in the last scene of Peggy Sue Got Married, when Charlie's apologizing to Peggy, he literally says, I cut off my right arm for another chance. That's just too perfect.
There's a whole casting crew looking at me right now, so if I'm a little nervous, that's why. But I just like to say thank you to Ariana for having me on her channel. I absolutely love Moonstruck, and I was so happy that we finally got to watch it. We had it in the list for a long time, and it changed my life. Nick Cage, he'll do that to you, and it doesn't help that Cher is perfect. Long live Francis Ford Coppola and nepotism.
So yeah, I've tested out this double feature and I like it, and I hope you guys do too. Before I go, I want to thank some people. I want to give a shout out to Eclectic Moon Art, run by my friend Lola Torres, who made my channel art and has recently started making graphics for my videos alongside my friend Fia Belen. Lola's website is eclecticmoonart.com, and on there you can find original work and tote bags for sale, so definitely go check it out. The link will be in my description. Thank you to my friends Cory, Kira, and Sophia for helping set up this wicked background. And to Kayla, thank you for editing my nonsense whenever you can. I really appreciate that. And finally, thank you to Yara Zaid and all of you who found me through her. Seeing my channel grow is so surreal, and I'm so grateful. Thanks.